Chapter 18 of Ratburger, Pulverisation. Prawn cocktail crisp, offered Sheila to the man. Don't mind if I do, Bert replied. Just one, sorry. So, what happens to all these rats? Continued Sheila in her poshest voice as she showed Bert to the door. Zoe was sitting crying on her bed. Her stepmother was so appalled by Zoe's behaviour, she had locked her in her room. As much as Zoe rattled the handle and banged on the door, it wouldn't move. The little girl was utterly broken. There was nothing to do but weep. She listened to her stepmother show the repulsive man out. Well, I tell the kiddies, replied Bert in a tone that was meant to be reassuring but actually sounded disturbing, that they all go to a special hotel for rats. Sheila laughed. And they believe you? Yes, the little fools. They think they all get to frolic outdoors in the sunshine before relaxing in a spa area, having massages and facials the like. But really, whispered Sheila, I pulverise them in my special pulverisation machine. Sheila let out a gurgling laugh. Is it painful? Very. Ha ha. Good. Do you stamp on them? No. Oh, I would stamp on them and then pulverise them. Then I would suffer twice. They would suffer twice as much. I must try that, Mrs. Oh, just call me Sheila. Another prawn cocktail crisp? Oh, yes, please. Just one. Sorry, such a delicate flavour, mused Bert. Exactly like a real prawn cocktail. I don't know how they do it. Have you ever had a real prawn cocktail? Nah, replied the woman, but I don't need to. They taste just the same as the crisps. But of course, madam, if you don't mind me saying, you are an extremely beautiful woman. I would love to take you out for dinner tonight. Oh, you naughty man, flirted Zoe's stepmother. Then I can treat you to one of my very special burgers. Oh, yes, please. The horrific woman added another sickeningly girly little laugh at the end. Zoe couldn't believe her stepmother was actually flirting so outrageously with this loathsome individual. Just me, you, and all the burgers we can stuff down our gobs, mused Bert. How romantic, whispered Sheila. Until later, my princess. Zoe heard the door close and her stepmother thunder back along the corridor to her daughter's bedroom before unlocking the door. You're in so much trouble, young lady, said Sheila. She must have kissed Bert goodbye because she now had black marker pen above her lip. I don't care, said Zoe. All I care about is Armitage. I have to save him. Who's Armitage? He's the rat. Why would you call a rat that? Asked the woman, incredulous. It's a long story. Well, it's a completely stupid name for a rat. What would you call him? Sheila thought for a long while. Well, asked Zoe, I'm thinking. A long silence followed, during which Sheila looked like she was concentrating very hard. Finally, she said, Ratty. A bit unoriginal, muttered Zoe. That made her stepmother even more furious. You're evil. You know that, young lady? Evil. I've got a good mind to throw you out onto the street. How could you attack that lovely man? Lovely? The man is a rat murderer. No, no, no. They all go to a special rat sanctuary and have spa treatments. Do you think I'm completely stupid? He kills them. He doesn't stamp on them, though. They're just pulverised. Shame, really. That's monstrous. Who cares? One less rat. No, I have to save my little Armitage. I have to. Zoe stood up and headed for the door. Her stepmother pressed her firmly back down onto the bed with her considerable weight. You're not going anywhere, said the woman. You're grounded, you hear me? Grounded. Grounded. Wait until my dad gets home. What? That Eustace gonna do? Zoe's eyes stung. Dad might have fallen onto hard times, but he was still her father. Don't you dare talk about him like that. All he's good for is benefit money and a roof over my head. I'll tell him you said that. He knows it already. I tell him every night, snorted the gruesome lady with a guttural laugh. He loves me. He won't let you treat me like this, protested Zoe. If he loves you so much, Why does he spend his whole life down to the boozer? Zoe fell silent. She didn't have an answer to that. The words broke her heart into millions of tiny pieces. "Ha," said the woman. With that, Sheila slammed the door shut and locked it behind her. Zoe rushed to the window and peered down at the road. She had a pretty good view of it, what with being 37 floors up in the crumbling tower block. In the distance, she could see Bert speeding off in his van. He wasn't much of a driver. She watched as he knocked off a few car wing mirrors and nearly ran over an old lady before the van zoomed off out of view. Outside, the sky grew dark, but the thousands of streetlights in the town lit up the outside world. They bathed her room in an ugly orange glow that could never be turned off. Later into the evening, Dad finally returned from the pub. There was shouting between him and Sheila, as there always was, and the slamming of doors. Dad never came into Zoe's bedroom to see her. Most likely he had fallen asleep on the sofa before he had the chance. Night came and went without sleep for Zoe. Her head was spinning and her heart was aching. In the morning she heard her dad go out, presumably to wait for the pub to open, and her stepmother turn on the TV. Zoe banged and banged on the door, but her stepmother would not let her out. "I'm a prisoner," thought Zoe. She lay back on her bed in despair, thirsty, hungry, and desperately needing a wee. "Now, what do prisoners do?" she said to herself. "They try to escape." Chapter 19. The Great Escape. Armitage was in terrible danger. Zoe needed to save him, and fast. She remembered that Bert parked his filthy burger van outside her school every day, so if she could just break out of her room, she could follow him. Then she could find where he imprisoned all the rats before they were pulverised. Zoe pondered all the different ways in which she might try to escape. 1. She could tie all her bed sheets together, then try and abseil to safety. Though as she lived on the 37th floor, she wasn't sure the sheets would get her much further than the 24th. There was also a chance of death, high. 2. There was always the Birdman option. Make some kind of glider from coat hangers and knickers and fly down to freedom. Chance of death, high. And more importantly, Zoe didn't have enough pairs of clean knickers. Chapter 3. Dig. Tunnels had been a favourite method of escape for soldiers in prisoner of war camps. Chance of death, low. The problem with number 3 was that below Zoe's room was the flat of a moany old lady who, despite having the yappiest of dogs herself, always went on and on about the noise from above. She would turn Zoe into her stepmother in no time. "I could always tunnel sideways," thought Zoe. She unstuck a poster of the latest boy band and gently tapped the wall behind it with her fingernails. The tapping echoed into the next flat, which meant the wall must be thin. Over the years, she had heard a great deal of shouting coming from next door, but it was too muffled to deduce what kind of people lived there. A girl and her parents, Zoe thought, but maybe others too. Whoever they were, though, their lives sounded every bit as miserable as Zoe's, if not more so. The plan itself was simple. The poster could be replaced at any time to hide what was going on. All she needed now was something to tunnel through the wall with. Something metal and sharp. A key, she thought, and ran excitedly to the door, only to remember that the key was on the other side. That was the whole reason she had to escape. "Duh," she said to herself. Zoe rummaged through her belongings, but her ruler, her comb, her pen and her hangers were all made of plastic. Anything plastic would snap instantly if she tried to hollow out a wall with it. Zoe caught sight of herself in the mirror and realised the answer was staring her in the face. Her braces. The blasted things would at last have some use. Zoe pulled them out with her fingers and dashed to the wall. Without even pausing to wipe the spit off them, she scratched at the wall. No wonder the braces were painful and rubbed against her gums and got stuck in Raj's cardigan. The metal was sharp. Quickly, the plaster from the wall was flaking onto the floor. Zoe had scratched through the plaster to the bricks behind it, and the braces became thick with all the paint and plaster and dust from the wall. Suddenly, Zoe heard the key in the lock turn in her bedroom door, and she leapt up and stuck the poster back on the wall. Just in time, she remembered to shove her braces back in her mouth, though there wasn't time to wipe them first. Sheila looked at her stepdaughter suspiciously. She looked like she knew Zoe was up to something, but she didn't know what yet. "Don't you want some grub? I suppose I'd better feed you," said the vile woman. "If you starve to death, I'll have social services all over me like a bleeding rash." Sheila's beady little eyes circled the room. Something was definitely different. She just couldn't quite put her chubby finger on it. Zoe shook her head. She didn't dare speak with a mouth full of dust. In truth, she was starving, but she had to get on with her escape plan and didn't want any more interruptions. "You must need to use the bog," said the big lady. Zoe spotted her stepmother's gaze searching the room. The little girl shook her head again. She thought she was going to choke, the dust now seeping right down the back of her throat. In truth, she was bursting, and she kept on having to cross her legs. But if she went to the loo and her stepmother searched her room, she might just find the beginnings of the tunnel. "Have you got your braces in?" Zoe nodded vigorously and then attempted a closed-mouthed smile. "Show me," pressed her stepmother. Zoe slowly opened her mouth a little bit to show a little bit of metal. "I can't see. Wider." Reluctantly, the girl opened her mouth, displaying the braces caked in dust. The woman peered to have a closer look. "You need to clean your teeth. They're disgusting. Nasty creature you are." Zoe closed her mouth and nodded in agreement. Sheila looked at her stepdaughter one last time and shook her head in revulsion before turning to leave. Zoe smiled. She had got away with it for now. She waited to hear the key turn in the door and then turned towards the wall. Her boy band poster was upside down. She prayed the one with the back to front hair would never find out she had put the poster upside down. He was Zoe's favourite, and they were going to get married. He just didn't know it yet. And on a slightly more urgent note, thank goodness her stepmother had missed the fact that the poster was no longer the right way up. Zoe spat out her braces and wiped her dry as a desert tongue on her sleeve to try and remove the dust, then went back to work. All through the night, she scratched and scratched through the wall until finally she broke through. Her braces were now a misshapen mess, and she tossed them aside. So happy to be nearly there, Zoe excitedly let her fingers take over now, scratching away to make the hole bigger, crumbling bits of plaster off in her hands as fast as she possibly could. Zoe wiped her eyes and peered through the hole. She had no idea what would be on the other side. Taking a closer look, she realised she could see a face. A face she knew. It was Tina Trot's.